Better late than never, eh? I'm talking about Bernie Sanders. Yes, that's right, Bernie Sanders, the nutless wonder himself. Because apparently his criticism towards the Democrats seemed to have made certain people angry, including everybody's favorite 84-year-old insider trader, Nancy Pelosi, who likes ice cream. Just calm down. We feed people. It's me, Nancy Pelosi. So I want to pull this video up here of old Nancy basically showing herself as a hypocrite. Because first and foremost, a beginning is a very delicate time. If you caught that reference, I love you. If you didn't, it's okay. You'll know soon enough. But here, how Nancy was saying that Biden had it in the bag, and then she says, well, first she's saying that Biden should have dropped out earlier, but then gets called out by CNN by saying, but she said that Biden had it in the bag, that he was a strong candidate. Let's play this video because now's the time to wonder, oh, gee, Bernie, well, what'd they have on you to keep your mouth shut for so long?
Had the president gotten out sooner, there may have been other candidates in the race. The anticipation was that if the president were to step aside, that there would be an open primary. And as I say, Kamala may have, I think she would have done well in that and been stronger going forward. But we don't know that. That didn't happen. We live with what happened. And because the president endorsed Kamala Harris immediately, that really made it almost impossible to have a primary at that time. If it had been much earlier, it would have been different.
That is Pelosi's view of the race, as she told to CNN contributor Lulu Garcia Navarro. It's worth noting that in the fall of 2022, when typically if there was going to be a primary process and one that would have taken shape, Pelosi was arguing this publicly.
You think President Biden should run again?
Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. But apparently Nancy didn't like, though, when Bernie was bringing this up here. Bernie Sanders, working class is angry and has a reason to be angry. Oh, you don't say. Bernie Sanders stood by the statement he released after the presidential election that was critical of the Democratic Party, arguing the working class has a reason to be angry. Sanders joined CNN's State of the Union on Sunday morning to discuss the election aftermath. While praising President Biden's effort for the working class, Sanders argued Democrats should have done more to appeal to them. Here's the reality. The working class of the country is angry, and they have reason to be angry. We are living in an economy today where people on the top are doing phenomenally well, while 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. Wow. You don't say, Bernie. Well, apparently Nancy didn't like that. She didn't like it one bit.
Pelosi was critical of what Bernie Sanders had to say, and he kind of previewed this here on Monday night. I talked to him, and he said, regardless of how this election goes, Democrats need to take a good, hard look at how they are conducting themselves and how they're reaching out to voters. And on that, Pelosi was critical. She said, Bernie Sanders has not won, with all due respect, and I have a great deal of respect for him for what he stands for. I don't respect him saying that the Democrat Party has abandoned the working class families.
It has abandoned. I was there at the DNC convention. I saw exactly how they built their tall fences. I saw how they kicked out the uncommitted vote. I saw how they dismissed anyone that was giving criticism towards Kamala. I saw firsthand in the 2020 primary how Bernie Sanders got kicked in the nuts again. Hell, I remember way back in 2016 when they did the same thing to him over there. And now Bernie Sanders is now speaking out. Why is it that you're defending a party that doesn't respect you? You clearly had a winning message. You had this epic coalition, the likes of which will probably never be seen again for quite some time, and you lost it. You threw it away. It went down the crapper.
Well, I would say, first of all, if the superdelegates didn't exist in 2016, I'd be very interested to see how that all worked out. But I want to say one.
Yeah, it'd be different if there weren't any superdelegates. It'd be a lot different because the thing is, controversial statement in a 3, 2, and an uno and out. The Republican primary has no superdelegates. Now, yes, there's always the establishment weighing in, but the Republican voters made it abundantly clear in 2016 and the 2020 Republican primaries they wanted Trump. And even though Trump didn't participate in any single one of the debates in 2024, he was the one that they were talking about the most. They were talking about him all the time, every time. They were the ones bringing up his name. And yet the voters decided for him. Superdelegates, it's just somebody saying, hey, we're going to make the decision for you, but here's your sticker for participating. Does that sound like a free and fair process? Because it doesn't.
One thing, country club Republicans were what the party was branded throughout the Bush years, especially the first Bush. That has been replaced by coastal elite Democrats, people who don't talk to the working person, but talk down to them like they're slope-headed rubes. And I think the American people on Tuesday sent a message that we are done with the virtue signaling and the identity politics and all of that put together. I think it was a resounding message. And I also, but before we get away too far from it, Biden does share some blame in all of this. Look, he said he was going to be a transitional president. He wasn't. He waited till the last hour when everyone with two eyeballs and a brain thought, that's not the Joe Biden I know. He's diminished.
I mean, and Biden.
He was always diminished. But hold on. I think it's only fair that we bring up Bernie himself. And huge shout out again to case study QB, who's wrongly being censored. I don't know how you sat through this case. I really don't. You're made out of stronger stuff than me. I can admit that all the time, every time.
Thank you for being here on this Sunday after Election Day. Let's start right there. Your criticism, incredibly direct. You say you think the Democratic Party has, quote, abandoned the working class. How exactly do you think Democrats have abandoned the working class, Senator?
Look, the working people of this country are extremely angry. They have a right to be angry. In the richest country in the history of the world today, the people on top are doing phenomenally well.
Yes. Man, I've heard you say this so many times, Bernie. Now, maybe instead of being a cuckity cuck, you explain why the Democrats were failing at their message.
Well, while 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and millions of families worry that their kids are actually going to have a lower standard of living than they do. You got the top 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 90%. We're the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all of our people. 25% of our seniors are trying to live on $15,000 a year or less. We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. And the gap between the people on top and everybody else is getting wider and wider. And then, Kristen, on top of all of that, we got a corrupt campaign finance system, which allows billionaires to buy elections. So if you're an average worker out there, you're saying, hey, I'm working longer and longer hours, going nowhere in a hurry, worried about my kids, and yet the people on top have never had it so good. Where is the Democratic Party? Are they?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, Bernie. Where were they? And what were you doing? You were spreading the cheeks for the DNC. Okay? You kept on ignoring your base. You destroyed your coalition. You gave it up. Because of what? That's the big question mark. You had it. You had lightning in the bottle, and you let it go. And those voters, and this might come as a shock to you, Bernie, can make their own decisions and maybe read the room better for themselves. And they realized, hey, wait a minute. Something ain't adding up. All of this really kind of stinks here. And it's clear that voters weren't really buying in for what the Democrats were offering. Biden was just offering all the same. Nothing was fundamentally changing. Grow up.
Prepared to stand up to these powerful corporate interests, raise the minimum wage, fight for health care for all people, make sure that all of our kids get the quality education that they need, expand Social Security. Are they prepared to do those things? That's the issue that we have to address.
Well, as you know, your statement was met with some sharp reaction as well. This is what Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi had to say. Take a look. I'll get your reaction on the other side.
Bernie Sanders has not won. Let me, with all due respect.
Okay, first of all, Nancy, you guys were crapping your pants in 2016. And were it not for all the BS in 2020, it was very clear that Bernie Sanders had it, okay? The DNC committed election fraud that denied Bernie Sanders the nomination in 2016 and 2020. It's very clear that there's been numerous examples of election machines not working, polling stations not being open, lines, people waiting in line, almost 20, not only just 4 hours, 8 hours, or 24 hours just to vote, okay? People being removed from the Democratic roster. And let's not start with the DNC convention because I was there. You know, when I talked to a lot of the delegates and volunteers and supporters and people associated with the Bernie Sanders campaign, their stories were all the same. Stories about them being phone called late at night, getting threatening emails or text messages, or even threatening phone calls, being assaulted physically, spit on, harassed, threatened to be doxxed, or either that, having them being called on by their own work. False accusations, you know, a lot of mean things happening to these Bernie Sanders supporters and volunteers. Not by Trumpers, no, by the Democratic Party and the Clinton campaign. They were all telling me their stories of heroism. They're all telling me their stories of being frightened. And all the stories are the same. So if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's got to be a duck, right? So what was going on there? So here you have Nancy saying that Bernie never won. Well, there was a reason why he never won. It's because the game was rigged from the start. You got that reference from Fallout New Vegas. Keep on playing.
And I have a great deal of respect for him, for what he stands for. But I don't respect him saying that the Democratic Party has abandoned the working class families.
Senator, how do you respond to Nancy Pelosi?
Well, Nancy's a friend of mine, and we've
She's a friend. So here's what I got to say to that.
All lies will be exposed.
They're all friends with each other. After saying that, hey, folks, let's have democracy in the chat. Did the Democratic Party abandon working class people? Type 1 for no, it didn't, Kit. You're just overreacting. Shame on you. Type 2, yes, it did. Yes, it did. And Bernie abandoned us too. I wonder how many twos will be in the chat. I wonder.
worked together on many issues. But here is the reality. I have to say to Nancy, in the Senate in the last 2 years, we have not even brought forth legislation to raise the minimum wage to a living wage, despite the fact
Here we go again.
that some 20 million people in this country are working for less than $15 an hour. In America today, we have not brought, in the Senate, we have not brought to the floor the PRO Act to make it easier for workers to join unions. We're not talking about defined benefit pension plans so that our elderly can retire with security. We're not talking about lifting the cap on Social Security so that we can extend the solvency of Social Security and raise benefits. Bottom line, if you're an average working person out there, do you really think that the Democratic Party is going to the mats, taking on powerful special interests and fighting for you?
Then how are they your friends, Bernie? Unless you like being bent over.
I think the overwhelming answer is no, and that is what has got to change.
Senator, let me zoom out and just ask you about these results. You've heard some of the reactions throughout the Democratic Party. How much do you personally blame President Biden for this loss?
President Biden, when
He's my friend, my good friend Joe. You remember? I remember even watching that during the 2020 primary. You are in a race against him. He is your rival. You must kill your rival. You must fight. He's not your friend. He's not your buddy. He's not your pal. He's your opponent. That's politics 101.
he came into office, said that he would be the most progressive president since FDR. And I think on domestic issues, not foreign policy, on domestic.
Why not foreign policy? And what do you mean domestic? What do you mean domestic? What are you talking about? What are you getting at? Bernie. What are you talking about? What you talking about, Bernie?
Issues, he has kept his word, and the agenda that he has pushed through has been an extraordinarily strong one. But that agenda has got to be placed within the overall context of American society today. And that American society today is one in which tens of millions of working families and elderly people are struggling, while the people on top have never had it so good.
But Senator, should he have gotten out of the race more quickly?
See, the answer, we all know the answer. He never should have been in the race even in 2020. Okay? Because what people forget, even corporate media was even talking about how Biden wasn't a spring chicken anymore. But yet, no matter who they tried to throw it against Bernie in 2020, be it Kamala, whose campaign went belly up and didn't even participate in even the first primary state, Klobuchar, who choked on that comb. Pete Buttigieg, a skaven in human form. You had Bet on My Stork, who always seemed to stand on tables. Anybody that they threw at good old Bernie Sanders, even including Bloomberg himself, failed miserably, and they kept on going back to good old reliable Joe because he'd be a good puppet. And how'd that work out, Bernie?
Some are arguing.
I supported him because I think
You heard that? So if you donate to his campaign in 2020, say that again, Bernie.
While the people on top have never had it so good.
But Senator, should he have gotten out of the race more quickly, as some are arguing?
I supported him because I think his agenda was a strong agenda.
Say again.
I supported him because I think his agenda was a strong agenda.
I don't mean to be putting this knife right back into everybody's heart, but say it again one more time, Bernie.
Are arguing.
I supported him because I think his agenda was a strong agenda, a working class agenda. I'm not going to look backwards. Kamala ran a strong campaign. She did everything that she could.
That's now $20 million in debt. Oh, what it is? It's $20 million in debt. Oh, you didn't know?
She decisively won the debate. So to me, it's not just the.
Did she really? Because if she won that, then she would have won the election. Okay. Voter enthusiasm is key. Politics 101 is convincing all voters, especially in the general election, that you are the superior candidate. I mean, at least that's what I was taught. You know, you got to convince voters to be excited to turn out to vote. And it turns out a lot of people just didn't turn out to vote.
About the campaign. It's about what does the Democratic Party stand for? Do ordinary people say, yeah, that is a party that is fighting for my interest and prepared to take on the big money interest who control the economic and political life of the country? That's to me what the issue is.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about the economics. You've talked about how the Democratic Party is out of touch when it comes to economic issues. Some Democrats are saying it's not just economic issues, it's cultural issues as well. Here's what Democratic strategist James Carville had to say. Take a look.
What killed the Democrats and what killed Biden was a sense of disorder. And part of the sense of disorder was the unfortunate events of what I would refer to as the woke era.
Has the Democratic Party's focus on identity politics gone too far, Senator?
Let me answer it this way. I think if the Democratic Party must continue.
Here's the thing. The answer is, yeah, because the number one issue is the economy. And I understand identity and social issues are important. But if everybody's broke, nobody's going to care about people's feelings. If everybody's starving and can't make ends meet, everyone's going to kind of rage out. The number one issue, was the economy. And the second issue was the ever dangerous threat and buildup of everybody's sequel that we all been dreading for, World War III around the horizon. It just doesn't work. It never has. And Hollywood is even learning that lesson in a very brutal way as they are deep in the red. You think Kamala's in debt? Look at your favorite Hollywood studios. Looking at you, Disney. Here's looking at you.
To stand up against all forms of bigotry. And Democrats should hold their head high in saying, we led the fight for women's rights and to protect the woman's constitutional right for abortion. We led the fight for civil rights, for gay rights. That is something we should be proud of. But it's not either or, Chris, and this is the problem. You can do both. You could say...
No, you can't. It was the economy. 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 Now, I sure hope that, things do get better. I would love to see something like that. That'd be wonderful to see, the economy recover, people living their best lives, people not in debt. I would love to see that. But right now, there's a lot of uncertainty. What a surprise it would be if actually the Democrats did follow through, if Biden actually did follow through, if Bernie actually had a backbone, a spine, a heart, a soul, that courage to really push his agenda. But remember when he compromised to the Biden campaign, the issues they were running on, and how many issues did Bernie get? A whopping 0. Nothing, nada, zilch. All gone.
That I'm for raising the minimum wage to a living wage. guarantee health care for all people, expanding Social Security. And by the way, I also support a woman's right to control her own body, etc. It's not either.
Look, I know everyone's freaking out about Trump, but I just don't see that happening. I just don't see him. I just don't see everybody's favorite political commissar, political police, Commissar Hans at the door. Everyone will fall in line and eat the bugs. Follow the orders.
It's going forward in both directions.
You know, I've been speaking to some Democrats who are concerned because now President-elect Trump has beaten 2 women candidates, and their concern is that it will make it more difficult to nominate a woman candidate in the future.
It's not that they were women. It's that they were terrible people and terrible candidates. No one could relate to them. Okay? They just didn't have what it takes. And you know, my favorite Logan Roy quote from Succession, I love you, but you are not serious people if you're going to bat for Clinton or Kamala. Okay? I mean, look at how people were disrespectful to Jill Stein. Look at how people have been disrespectful to progressive women who were challenging the Democratic establishment. You know, we have seen this before. We have seen this before. So it's not that just Kamala and Clinton were women. It's just that they were terrible. So judge somebody by the content of their character. And turns out Clinton and Kamala, not relatable at all. Not relatable at all. Period. End of conversation.
Share that concern, Senator?
No, I don't. I think it's not a question. Look, I'm not going to deny that there is sexism in this country, that there's racism, there's homophobia. It's there. But on the other hand, I think what the American people want to support, whether it's a woman, a man, a black or a white or Latino, whatever, is they want to support somebody who is standing up, Kristen, and fighting for them. People are in pain. People are hurting. They can't afford to go to a doctor. They can't afford to send their kids to childcare or to college. They're worried about future generations and what kind of standard of living they will have. Here is the bottom line, and it has to be dealt with. You got an economy today doing phenomenally well for the people on top. It is.
Look, I want to pull this up here because apparently, Bernie needs to be reminded. You know, again, this is only scratching the surface. A full in-depth reason why Kamala was terrible. I mean, it's stuff like this. And this was before she really started making her political footprint larger.
Build more schools, less jails. Build more schools, less jails. And we walk around everywhere. Build more schools. We protest. Build more schools, less jails. Put money into education, not prisons. There's a fundamental problem with that approach, in my opinion.
And there's a little bit more to that, but I don't want to subjugate you guys. That's just 17 seconds. But I thought the first time she was mocking, you know, the voting base or progressives or independents. You know, just look at her track record. Look at her track record. Look at it. But don't worry, Bernie. Keep on being a good cuck.
Is not working for the working class. All right. How do we address those issues? And in the richest country on the history of the world, create an economy that works for all. That is the issue. And by the way, what Trump did in his election is to say, I know that you're hurting. And the reason is they got millions of people coming across the border illegal. They're eating your dogs. They're eating your cats. He gave.
He said the line, Bart. Say it again.
The reason is they got millions of people coming across the border illegal. They're eating your dogs. They're eating your cats.
Perfect. Say it again one more time, Bernie.
Eating your cats.
Whoa. Say it again.
The reason is they got millions of people coming across the border illegal. They're eating your dogs. They're eating your cats. He gave an explanation.
I know somebody on Twitter did like a music rendition of Trump saying they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cat. Eat the cat. Eat the cat. You gotta have Bernie and Trump now doing the duet. I'm pretty sure that there's some mad genius in my live stream audience that could do something like that. Do it. Somebody in the internet. You got a homework assignment. Make it happen. Make it happen.
It happened to be a pretty crazy explanation. Yes, we got to strengthen the borders, but that is not going to raise.
Teddy G, that's too soon. Get up, go see the White House counselor right now. R.I.P. Peanut and Fred. R.I.P.
Wages for working people or provide health care to all people. The Democrats need an explanation, and that explanation is corporate greed and the power of the billionaire class. I know that's uncomfortable for people in the Democratic Party, some people, but that is the issue we have to address.
Patrick D., get up, go see the White House counselor right now. Shame on you. Tell Wendy what you just said.
Senator, quickly before I let you go, I do want to ask you about the Supreme Court. Some Democrats behind the scenes quietly talking about the possibility, should Justice Sotomayor step down.
Oh, geez. Oh, I saved this one for last. We all remember this one. Remember Ruth Bader Ginsburg? Remember her? RBG, who didn't want to step down because she wanted Hillary Clinton to have her step down so that Clinton could replace somebody else. Gee, Democrats, maybe if Obama actually did tell RBG, hey, step down and also appoint his other Supreme Court nominee, maybe the Supreme Court wouldn't have those 5 conservative justices. But yet here we are because the Democrats lack a backbone and they lack the foresight and they lack the ability to read the room. So here we are again. Now, what kind of you think Bernie's going to tell her to step down or not? Yes or no? I'll let you decide. The answer is no.
To allow President Biden to appoint someone who's younger. She's only 70 years old. Is that something that you would support? Do you think she should step down?
No, I don't.
No. We've learned nothing. Nothing will fundamentally change, period. No debate, no conversation. It's over. Done. Donezo. It's over. So what can we say about Bernie Sanders? I mean, it's better late than never, but it's like hindsight 2020. Gee, maybe we shouldn't be building unstable oil pipelines over water reservoirs or rivers or lakes. Gee, maybe we shouldn't be instigating global conflicts around the world. So that way, we are not at risk of starting a sequel we all hate, World War III. Gee, maybe, we should reinstate Glass-Steagall so we don't have an unchecked, brutal Wall Street that could potentially lead us to an economic depression, the likes of what that makes the 1930s seems like a walk in the park. Gee, maybe we should do something to protect our environment, our social infrastructure. Gee, maybe we should invest into strong railways that don't derail and expose people to dangerous chemicals. Gee, maybe we should hold Boeing accountable for its crappy airplanes that are falling apart in the sky. I don't know. Hindsight 2020, Bernie. Gee, maybe if you left and actually formed a real independent coalition with progressives and independents, we would be in a different situation altogether. But gee, the Democrats are getting a harsh talking to by Bernie, and that's all what they're going to deal with. And they wonder why they're losing supporters.
If you fool me once, it's because I didn't think a guard was needed. If you fool me twice, it's because I didn't learn the lesson, so it bears repeating. If you try the same play 3 times running, it's because you know what's coming, and you didn't come to lead, you came to purposefully be misleading. Democracy is dry. It's been a century bleeding. The husk is gaping open to the sky, out in the field where all the sheep just keep on circling and worrying and bleeding. They're waiting for the shepherd that they've tried to hide their faith in, but he's so appealing. They'd gladly give their fleece. It's such a freeing feeling that even when he leads them to the ledge and starts to urge them on, they're positively beaming. They were told that they were on their way to save democracy, so even as they plummet, they just gloat. They don't consider screaming. And halfway up the cliff, the shepherd's cozy little mittens wrap around the staff of shattered human hopes on which he's leaning. He shows the gentle grin that used to stir your inner spark, and he says, "Not me, us," as he gestures to the oligarchs. He knows that if he runs, they're going to stop him like a stolen car. And he'll easily surrender because it bought a lot of time for laying mines in all the grassroots. Suddenly, the tiniest of movements gets you blown apart. Suddenly, you're in a play that's set on an election day and voting for the fire, unaware you're playing Joan of Arc. Suddenly, the shepherd pulls the rug and slips a hood across your clueless mug, and everything goes zero dark. I'm gonna warn you once more before it's 2024 and you fuck around and find out who your heroes are. To take a step back from the herd, and you'll learn that you can spot who all the shearers are. If you really want to know the product that they're selling, I can take you where the mirrors are. If you think your voice is finally ready, I can tell you where the lyrics are. I hid them in a box I had to bury neath the cobble when they carpet bombed the promenade and raided all the street bazaars. Now all we've got's the marketplace, and you're too broke to even bother asking what the options for your treatment are. Suddenly, the raw debris of homeless human dignity will find it has 100 teeth for every badge and sweeper's arm. Suddenly, they speak in solidarity and each is armed. Suddenly, the sheep can see the shepherd for his truest form and all pitch in at once to help him buy the farm. And now it's zero dark, and all is calm and peaceful save the distant wail of sirens that approach beside the flames of dawn. Suddenly, the carrot's just a string that's on a stick, and all your movements make you sick because the prize is gone. Now we could go and flee into the forest low and meek, or we could exercise our right to feast and go and graze on Biden's lawn. 'Cause he's been sowing seeds that seep a toxin out to sap a bit from each of us and keep on leaching decades after Biden's gone. So regardless who they summon out of hell to come and do the job, it will not feel like Biden's gone. But in that time of hopelessness, you cannot trust the shepherd when he once again comes asking you to humor him his siren song. And it's cute that you can innocently, honestly assume that's just a symptom of a system that was wired wrong, and not the standard feature, basic function, primary objective of a mass hypnosis firebomb. You don't need to know the words to cry along. Someday it'll hit you like an officer who pistol whipped their ride along. Broke his jaw and kept his job and kept it moving right along. That voting isn't red or blue or black or white or right or wrong. Voting's like a firing squad where you can choose the firearm. It's slow extinction by and large. It's Super Tuesday supercharged. It's all your futures, roots and all, just tossed out on a garbage barge. It's everybody dropping out to push the biggest oligarch. It's everybody voting fire, registered as Joan of Arc.